Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And this is one of the end time signs that Yahawashi, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, told his disciples to look for, to know that they were truly living in the last days. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And when we go into that word iniquity in the Strongs, it's G458, anomia, and it reads, the condition of without law, because ignorant of it, because of violating it, contempt and violation of the law, iniquity, wickedness. And this is ultimately talking about this world being without the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures being implemented. Hence why the world is in this chaotic state. Hey, but on another level, we're coming into the times to where, people are disregarding the laws of their government. And just look at the United States of America. You have a lot of police leaving the force, which is what? Leading to a state of lawlessness out here. And it's only going to increase as these prices go up. This cost of living crisis we're in. People get desperate out here because they've got to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to pay for my gas? Am I going to pay my light bills? Or am I going to pay for food to eat? And it's eventually just going to get to the point to, you're going to see these average people out here getting that dog-eat-dog spirit, like these criminals out here that are already, taking what they want. But I opened up the video with this verse to preface an article on the economiccollapseblog.com titled, Authorities Are Literally Losing Control of the Streets as America's Societal Collapse Accelerates. And if authorities are losing the street, what does that mean? The law isn't being enforced, hence why you've got growing numbers of people out here, in contempt of it, in violation of it, doing what they want to do out here. In a civilized society, authorities are able to maintain at least a basic level of law and order in the streets most of the time. Unfortunately, at this point, it is up for debate whether the United States is still a civilized society or not. The chaos in our streets never seems to end, and those that are in charge of running things don't seem to be able to regain control. And a lot of that's by design. The elites that truly pull the strings of America, such as the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, these different organizations out here like BlackRock and Vanguard are ready to foreclose on the United States of America in its, current system. They're ready to bring in that new system, that NWO, that great RESET, and what's one of their mottos, Ordo ab Chaos, order out of chaos, create so much violence and chaos and madness out here that the people are going to be begging for a solution, and they're going to take whatever is offered to them to bring things back to some semblance of normality. The theft, violence, and mayhem that we are witnessing in our major cities is being fueled by the worst homelessness crisis in our entire history, the worst drug crisis in our entire history, and the worst migration crisis in our entire history. If authorities cannot control our streets now, what is going to happen once our societal collapse reaches a much more advanced stage? And it's going to be a hell to tell the captain out here. You're going to see a real animalistic state in people out here. Like I just said, when people are faced with being kicked out of their houses, their lights going off, them not being able to feed themselves or their children. And then on top of that, what? Economic collapse, another LOCK down because of some pestilence or a theist attack, a cyber attack or anything like that, that just, throws this entire system out of the way. Hey, it's going to be get it how you live out here. And people aren't going to be concerned whether you used to be friends or good co-workers or not. When we go back to, Matthew 24, verse 12, it says, not only shall iniquity abound, but the love of many shall wax cold. And when we go into that word cold in G5594, what does it read? Psycho. And in the outline of biblical uses, what does it say? To be made or grow cool or cold. Metaphor of waning love. Let's see. Pretty much that's the main point. Metaphor of waning cold. And we know that word psycho is, short for what? Psychopath these days. And when you think of a psychopath, what do you think of? A person that has no, emotions or regards towards another person's life. It's all about them and their survival. So with this lawlessness coming, this coldness, this psychopathy is coming, which, we can already see that, in these times we're currently living in, because people have become especially selfish out here. It's all about, getting that bag or getting it how you live. That YOLO, you only live once lifestyle. You have no community out here. People, the majority of people out here don't know their neighbors and don't want to know their neighbors. So when you have this isolation, this selfishness, and, trustfulness towards each other out here, what do you think is going to happen when the rule of law completely collapses? Hey, you've got the answer. But before we go on, I'm going to go to 2 Timothy. Might be in, let me think. Might be in chapter 3. Yeah, I think it's in chapter 3. 2 Timothy 3. And was the header read, difficult times will come. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves. And what does that sound like? A narcissist, a selfish person, a psychopathic person that's only concerned about their own well-being. Covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers. And, we can especially see that with this social media generation. People are definitely lovers of their own selves. It's all about putting up this image of this life, which in most cases they don't live, just to shit on somebody else. Covetous. The main concern of a lot of people out here is just getting money by any means. Boasters. Proud. You see people not willing to, negotiate or come to terms. It's always getting in the last word and being violent out here if they don't get it. Blasphemers. Disobedient to parents, which, we see a lot of these demons out here, a lot of these Gen Zers just in that spirit of, I don't need answers from anybody. I know what I'm doing. Unthankful, unholy, without natural affection. Hey, the love of many shall wax cold. Truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent. And I believe that word incontinent, let's get it. I think it goes into you not being able to control your sexual desires. Yeah, without self-control, intemperate. And a lot of people out here are living on these base instincts. They're literally beasts. All they do is eat, shit, fuck, and talk shit. Fierce, despisers of those that are good. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of the Most High. And when you just have, again, a selfish, narcissistic, really sociopathic society out here that's just barely being held together by this illusion of the rule of law, And as we're about to go into with that article, that's even fallen apart when it's just completely, lawlessness out here and people realize I can pretty much get away with whatever I want. You're going to see these demons that have been nurtured in these people by this American society over the last couple of decades show its horns. But let's get back into this article. Robin Bach and her husband were absolutely thrilled when they were able to purchase their dream home in Concord, New Hampshire several years ago. But now her children won't even play in the backyard because it has been taken over by a homelessness encampment. A New Hampshire family is being terrorized by a homeless encampment that sprouted up behind their historic home, leading to violent encounters with vagrants, according to a report. Robin Bach and her husband spent years restoring their 19th century dream home in Concord to raise their 2 children, ages 8 to 11, but have been plagued by the campers living in the woods behind the palatial abode. They've received death threats and have heard gunshots and screams from beyond the tree line. A swing set in their backyard, bought in 2020 during the pestilence, sits untouched by her terrified children, who will only play in the front yard. Thousands upon thousands of homeless encampments are popping up in communities all across this country. Bach and her family have been endlessly terrorized by those that are camping out just behind her property, and it is being reported that she has called the police 37 times. Since purchasing the house in 2018 with grand plans to renovate and raise a family, Bach has called police 37 times, according to police records reviewed by the newspaper. 6 calls were for an area check, another 6 for disturbances, as well as domestic violence and criminal trespassing incidents. I suppose that they could sell the house at a loss and move someplace where the homeless have not taken over yet. But the problem is that the homeless encampments keep on spreading to new areas. Meanwhile, the violence in our major cities just continue to escalate. Over the 4th of July holiday weekend, a total of 109 people were shot in the city of Chicago. 109 people have been shot, 19 fatally, in gun violence across Chicago since Wednesday during the extended 4th of July holiday weekend, police said. Superintendent Larry Snelling and Mayor Brandon Johnson both called for accountability for those responsible for the shootings. Johnson was pressed to address what adjustments need to be made to keep the community safe. His response was simply getting more support. But what did you see? A couple of years ago, especially after those George Floyd protests, a call for defunding the police, which a lot of that did take place, which led to a lot of police officers leaving the force. In a civilized society, when you were attacked, you called the police and they come and help you. But in Chicago, about half the time, there isn't even a police officer available when someone calls in to report a violent crime. In Chicago in 2023, more than 1,800 calls were made to 911 of a person being shot. Only about 800, fewer than half, were responded to immediately by police officers. The other 1,000 callers were victims of 911 backlogs where no police were available at the time of the call. Those victims had to wait half an hour, or even several hours for 911 call backlog to end and for police to finally arrive. And hey, at that point, whatever crime was about to be committed against you, hey, it's safe to say that that person had their way with you. And I remember about 10 years ago, this was 10 years ago, there was somebody I knew down here, in New Orleans, that had a female friend who was doing community work and building homes in, I think, areas for the poor, those in low income. And she ended up getting raped on the work site, and they called the police, and the police showed up 3 hours later. So that was 10 years ago. How much worse do you think things are now? It was the same for the 32,000 911 calls of an assault in progress, where police were only immediately available for 50% of those calls. And it was the same for 54% of the city's 911 calls of 35,000 batteries in progress. All over this country, the police are completely and utterly overwhelmed by the tsunami of lawlessness, because iniquity shall abound, that we are witnessing all around us. They are massively outnumbered by the lawbreakers, and the lawbreakers are becoming increasingly bold. What did it say back in that 2 Timothy 3? Fierce, incontinent. In some of our major cities, things have gotten so bad that lawbreakers brazenly take over entire streets on a regular basis. In Los Angeles, one of these street takeovers recently ended with a blazing inferno. More than 50 cars were involved in a street takeover in downtown Los Angeles early Saturday, as some went up in flames, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. Video shows a car completely engulfed by a fire, sitting in the middle of an intersection as a thick black cloud of smoke rises from the vehicle. Other cars can be seen as they try to drive around the inferno. LAPD said several vehicles were impounded after authorities responded to the area near East 18th Street and Main Street, where participants intentionally set two of the cars on fire. Unfortunately, this is the most law and order that we are going to get. From this point forward, our society will only become even more chaotic. Those that have been following my work for a long time know that I am warned that someday we would see armed guards on food trucks. Well, now it's starting to happen. Things have gotten so utopian in the state of California. Delivery drivers are being accompanied by armed guards due to crime concerns while out making deliveries. One company, Core-Mart, has started hiring the guards to escort its drivers, which means that somewhere in a boardroom, it likely made more financial sense to pay for all new security staff than it did to continue to allow drivers to get robbed and inventory lost, as was happening prior. These trucks are not transporting objects of immense value. As you can see in this footage, they are simply making deliveries to convenience stores. And I'm going to play this clip. This is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
A new crime concern popping up in the South Bay. Delivery drivers say they're increasingly worried about becoming targets. It's happening often enough that at least one company is now hiring armed guards to escort their drivers. Damian Trujillo in downtown San Jose with a story you'll see only on NBC Bay Area.
One of those escorted delivery drivers spent part of his day here at the 7-Eleven on 3rd and San Fernando. And at least one retired San Jose police officer says he's not surprised. Many call them the lifeline of the American economy, truck drivers, including those who deliver merchandise to convenience stores, often early in the morning. But a clerk at the downtown San Jose 7-Eleven was surprised to see this recently. A delivery company called Core-Mart providing an armed guard with its truck and driver. Gurdev Singh says, unfortunately, he understands why.
Facing so many problems just because of the crazy guys. Now they are good at all. Here in downtown San Jose, lot of crazy people hanging all the time. So better they hire a guard.
We reached out to Core-Mart's parent company, but they declined to explain why they're now providing the guards. San Jose police say they saw a slight increase in the robbery of delivery trucks 2 years ago, but say they have not seen a spike lately. Flavio Lopez works for another delivery company and says he wishes he had a guard as well, or at least a second person to help him keep an eye on the merchandise. Lopez hasn't been robbed, but he has had his run-ins downtown.
They had a pallet just like this, little stack, and somebody just came over and knocked it all over Starbucks glass. I had to pick it all up, and he just ran. So stuff you got to deal with downtown. It is what it is, man.
Unfortunately, this is what society has become now, with armed guards guarding merchandise from the retailer, because there seems to be a sense of lawlessness in our society.
Daryl Cortez is a retired San Jose police officer who now works in corporate and retail security.
It's very unfortunate. You and I pay for it. The consumer pays for it in the back end, because prices increase because the merchandise is going out the door, and no one is stopping the bad guys because of the threat of violence.
It's clear that not everyone is taking the extra precaution. We saw several delivery trucks today and none had a guard. But Cortez says if one company is doing it, others are likely considering it to keep their drivers and...
Hey, it's literally becoming like the Wild West out here. But hey, this is just another, instance that's going to lead to a disruption in the supply chain. And if, goods are getting stolen before they get to the store, or, people quit driving trucks because they fear for their lives, what's that going to lead to? Emptier and emptier store shelves. This is 2 Esdras chapter 6, verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. It's grocery stores, convenience stores, any place you get goods at. This is our country now. Authorities are not able to maintain a sufficient level of control in the streets, and so companies are starting to take matters into their own hands. Needless to say, this is just the beginning. Hey, the beginning of sorrows, as it says in Matthew 24, verse 8. We will see things happen during the months and years to come that most people would never have imagined in their wildest dreams. But hey, when you have an understanding of these scriptures, a biblical prophecy, you know exactly what's coming down the pipeline.